Other Valley police departments are investigating officers for misusing those license plate readers, and our national investigative teams tracked dozens of similar cases nationwide.
Investigative reporter Amy Cutler shows us why we're suddenly learning about such a spike in these cases.
I asked Flock, the leading vendor of this technology, about why we're hearing about so many cases of possible misuse. They say it's the result of their own AI audit tool that they rolled out back in April, and that police departments are implementing it and then identifying these concerning trends. But to some, it raises lots of concerns about putting a company that created the problem in charge of the solution. Automatic license plate readers are used by 60 police departments across Arizona, and the benefits are clear. Buckeye police credit the cameras with tracking down an armed road rage suspect back in March. Casa Grande police say when a neighboring department asked for help last month finding a homicide suspect, they used the technology to track his car to a home and then make the arrest. In Apache Junction, investigators tell us the cameras were used to locate a missing 13-year-old. She was the subject of a turquoise alert.
This young girl was taken by a 68-year-old individual, stranger, completely unknown, who nobody would have known anything on where this girl was had we not issued a turquoise alert and had license plate reading technology.
But it was at that same event that Apache Junction Police Chief Mike Pooley announced one of his officers resigned after using flock cameras to track his wife.
This technology is rife for abuse, and it's not new news.
Surprise police are the latest to suspend their use of flock cameras, joining Chandler police, who pulled their cameras after one of their employees may have misused the system. Goodyear police is launching a criminal investigation into one of its officers over flock access. In response to concerns, Tempe police say they'll stop sharing the data from its 33 cameras. They've also implemented a transparency portal Flock makes available to its users. That shows the department has searched the system more than 700 times in the last 30 days.
Even if 99.9% of people are going to use it responsibly, it's that 0.1% who are causing problems.
Tempe Councilman Bobby Nichols is opposed to flock cameras and says the city is reviewing its data to determine if the technology has actually made them safer.
That if we are using flock, it needs to be a narrowly tailored solution to a compelling government concern.
Do you think that there's a way to put guardrails in place to make it so that the data is used in a responsible way?
There definitely are.
Caitlin Contreras with the ACLU of Arizona says there should be safeguards in place and that the community the readers are helping protect should be given a voice in the process. A bill that would have put safeguards around this technology in place was introduced in the state Senate this past legislative session, but failed to advance. Amy Cutler, Arizona's Family Investigates.